Hello everyone, good day. Welcome back again to our class, Introduction to Psychology. And for today, let's learn more about an important issue or topic that becomes prominent to our society. So it's about mental health. So we might hear mental health to a lot of people and to a lot of advocates or even practitioners. So mental health has become prominent to our society, especially today in the course of the pandemic, no? A lot of people have become vulnerable to problems, to different stress, anxiety, depression, and other mental illnesses. So, as future psych practitioners, let's learn more about this and let's try to uncover ways on how to cope up with problems. So, how do we know that we are still mentally healthy? This is a question that a lot of people try to question on themselves. Am I still mentally healthy? Am I vulnerable right now to these problems? How can I cope up with these things? And so on and so forth. So, mental health is a state of well being in which every individual realizes his or her own potential. So, definitely, mental health involves a lot of facets. Okay, so it's not only in your head, no, it could also manifest in your body. It is affected, no, every area in your system, in your body, in your emotion, in your psychological functioning is affected by mental health. So, okay, so from which a person can cope up with the normal stresses of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make a contribution to her or his community. So, again, it's important for us as future psych practitioners to learn and to really know what is the definition of mental health and how can we cope up to different problems in order for us to serve and to help other people, for us to provide psychosocial support. Okay, so what causes a person to be mentally unhealthy? Let's try to uncover this question. I think you, at some point in our life, we try to uh, ask this question. So, for many people, they have different sources of problems or stress, which can affect their mental health. No, several individuals, even the rich or the poor, has their own sources of problem. Okay, so again, every person is different. Okay, so stress and coping. Let's learn more about stress. So, this is a definition by Hans Selye. He is an Austrian Canadian and endocrinologist. All right, wherein he created a model, no, which I will be discussing later. Okay, so according to him, stress is a psychological response of the body to physical and psychological demands. So the non-specific response of the body to any demand made on it. According to him, okay, there are times wherein a person wants to have a complete freedom from stress, wherein he calls this as death. So there are points in our life, no, not really us, but some people, no, they might see suicide as the only solution to their problem. So I hope we will not go on that thinking, no, that we're in ending our life is the only solution to our problems. Okay, let's become rational here and let's practice coping up skills. Okay, so there is also an implication that says stress acts as a motivator to make us adjust our behavior to meet changing demands. So there's a positive stress which is called as eustress. So stress is not only connotated as negative, there is also a positive form of stress wherein it will help us become more diligent uh, to our tasks, to our responsibilities in work or in school. This is according to Selye. Okay, stress has three components, and these are number one, stressors, number two, stress reaction, and number three, stress mediators. Let's learn more about this. Stressors are the stimuli or demands that cause stress. So, an event that happened in your life, no, it might be a positive event or a negative event, no, it could signal to your brain that there is a problem that can cause fear, anxiety. Okay, so a stressor can be a chemical or a biological agent. So, um, it means that an event that can happen in our life, because biological, because in a sense that for some people, no, genetics has really proven that we can inherit some of this traits of not being resilient to our parents or to our ancestors, okay, in our generations. So again, it can be chemical or biological agent, an environmental condition, no, so external in nature, okay, and it could also be internal, no, so an external stimulus or any occurrence that can cause feelings of stress to the person or to an organism. So there are two types of stressors. These are the physical stress that can happen in our body. For example, if we are so exhausted at work, no, if we exercise too much, no, it can cause physical stress in our body, which can then affect our mental health. Number two is psychological stress, no, in a particular situation that we are confronted by issues or problems which can cause mental breakdown or exhaustion in the way we think. Of course, this can also affect our mental health. So, physical stress is a physical reaction of the body to various triggers. The pain experienced after surgery, that is an example. Like also temperament, environment, conditions, illnesses, or a strenuous work. Psychological stress again is the emotional and physiological reaction experienced when an individual confronts a situation in which the demands go beyond their coping resources. So if we become mentally exhausted at work or in school, no, or we experience something that is unwanted, or it could create a scenario that will lead us into a situation that in which we will regret. Okay, that can happen to us, and it can cause psychological stress which can affect mental health. It is also describe what people feel when they are under mental, physical, or emotional pressure. I hope this is clear to you. Okay, psychological stress includes frustration. Okay, this is being upset or annoyed when one is blocked from reaching a goal or because of the inability to change or achieve something. Like, for example, if we can feel frustrated if we are working so hard but we cannot reach our goal, or we are blocked, or there are instances that, or some events, no, that can block our goals in life. So that is an example of frustration. Pressure is when one is confronted with personal responsibilities that can strain one's abilities. So I think pressure is also helpful for us because it can push us to our limits and for us to achieve something, to accomplish new things. But too much of it is not good. So again, it's important to balance things out in order for us not to reach mental exhaustion. Boredom or under stimulation. So if we are not so stimulated, no, or if we are not challenged by some factors or by some events, no, this can lead to a state of disappointment. That you feel that you did not achieve something in your life, which can lead to feelings of worthlessness, no, okay, and other symptoms that can also lead to depression, okay, or other mental illnesses. Trauma is an emotional response to terrible event. So for at some point of our life, we might experience trauma, like for example physical trauma. If we have an accident, no, unfortunately, so it could lead to a physical trauma and also psychological trauma, uh, wherein if a person is like abused or even molested, no, that can lead to a psychological trauma which can affect our mental health. So either physical or psychological, it can really affect our mental health as well. So it is multifaceted. Okay, conflict, no, it's the situation wherein we are torn between two or more potential courses of action. So conflict can occur, okay, when some of our ideas, no, or some of our of our ways of thinking, no, can become can lead to a devastation, or it can lead to something that will become unwanted in the future. So we're torn between some courses of our action. So sometimes we are doubtful of our behaviors. No, we might not become so certain of what is the right thing to do. So have you ever experienced that you are really challenged of the best thing that on which you will decide? Like for example, choosing a course. No, for some people they find it difficult to really choose the right course for them. So it can also lead to a psychological stress. And not only that, also other decision making uh, events in our life, no, that can have a very big impact, okay, to our personal life and to our professional life. Okay, so stress reaction is described as the physical, psychological, behavioral responses when we are under stress. So when we are under uh, when we are under stress, no, our body has really experienced a lot of things, not only in our psychological or emotional functioning, but also in our physical functioning. So um, basically there is that reaction that happened in our body. So for different people, they react differently with stress. Some people can panic easily, can become more vulnerable, but some people is more resilient, no? So I do encourage you to have that positive mindset always, and to practice those coping of skills that are helpful for you or that is effective for you. Stress mediators. Okay, so these are the characteristics such as individuals' extent of control over stressors. So basically, this is how you manage some unfortunate events that can happen in your life. So how the stressor is interpreted, okay, social support, and the stress coping up skills. So basically, these are the things that you can do. How can you respond on those stressful moments or events in your life? Okay, so I hope that is clear to you. Okay, so we have already discussed about different stressors, no? Psychological stress, stress reaction, and stress mediators. Moving forward to conflict. So conflict is a major source of stress, and this definitely attracted the attention of various psychologists as a subject of their study. So a famous American German psychologist named Kurt Lewin, okay, was the primary researcher on the concept of conflict. He analyzed conflict in terms of approach and avoidance. So approach is when a person is torn between two desirable courses of action. So for example, in a situation that you wanted to do this, you wanted to work in this company, and also you also wanted to work on that company. So you're torn between on what is the most or rightful decision for you. So that can cause conflict. Avoidance is when you are forced to choose between two unpleasant courses of action. So a situation here is when, for example, when you are forced to choose a decision, no, but you don't want those decisions. Like for example, let me think of a particular scenario. So, like when you are tasked to present in class, okay, and also you are tasked to make a research, okay. So if you don't like towards to do that, no, you're forced to choose, but you don't like to make a research and to present in class, okay. You're just choosing, no, what is the lesser evil or what is the lesser good, no, on those things, no. Basically that can also lead to a conflict, no, because you don't want to do those kinds of tasks. Okay, that is only an example, huh? Okay. Approach avoidance. So when one is simultaneously drawn to and repelled by the same goal. Okay, so basically what happens here is when there's a situation or a scenario that on which there is a likely event, okay, and there is another uh, event or goal, no, but you have to really choose what you have to do. No, there is only one decision. Okay, this can lead to a conflict. Okay, because you just have to choose one. Okay, so basically when you choose one, the goal of the other cannot be done or cannot happen, no? So if you choose this, there is a separate goal, so it can lead to a conflict because you cannot reach the other goal if you choose this one. Okay, there are events that can occur in our life that we are able to choose, what is the best for us, no? How can we judge ourselves, no, based from how we make our decisions, no? So it is really dependent towards the person. So double approach avoidance is when one needs two or more goals, so each of which has both attractive and repelling aspects. So basically, this happens when there are specific goals, two or more, no, on which you have to do, no. But in order for you to do this, you have to decline other goals. No, if you can do this, no, there are some consequences, okay, that you might feel that I don't like to perform this because it might lead me into a situation that I will not reach that goal, or I might hurt other people. No, those this can happen to every person. So let's proceed to Hans Selye's concept of the general adaptation syndrome. So Hans Selye defined this study as the predictable way as the of the body responses to stress. So GAS, or the general adaptation syndrome, is developed by Hans Selye. This is described as the pattern of responses that the body goes through after being prompted by a stressor. Okay, this is the process that what happens to our body when we are under stress. So there are three stages, namely alarm, resistance, and exhaustion. So alarm reaction, no, when there is when there is a stressor, or a particular stimuli that can happen in our body, of course there is an initial response, no, or a sympathetic division that is involved. Okay, and how our body receives that particular stimuli, no, it alarms our brain that something is happening or something can happen, no. It is sometimes it is sometimes proliferated through stress or fear, no? I mean, fear and anxiety. So those are the signals. Resistance, and when your body becomes fully mobilized. So this happens when the stress is under you and you're trying to do something and you're trying to resist, no, from it to overwhelm you so much. Exhaustion are the resources that are depleted. So when you feel that your resistance has become too much used already, no, and you cannot perform any more coping up skills, or your body might experience this, no, you become exhausted, mentally exhausted. Okay, so again, it's important for us to really develop a coping up skill, no, to become not overwhelmed and not reach towards that point of exhaustion. Okay, coping. Coping is about how people manage stressful conditions. However, effectiveness of the methods in coping varies from one person to the other. So, let's learn more about the different types or forms of coping. Emotion focused coping. So, coping mechanisms involve a process that includes self reflection and taking control over one's emotions. So, I believe mindfulness can be related into this. No, basically, you're trying to stop if you feel that what's happening in your body is not good already. You're trying to resist. No, rather than solving the problem, emotion focused coping examines the emotional response to the stressor. So you stop yourself, no, from having that emotional attachment. If you feel so bad, if you feel so angry or towards the person, no, you focus on that feeling and you just let it go. Sometimes you process it out, no, you try to rationalize that emotion, if it is true, or if it is existing, or if is it, if talagang meron talagang, if talagang kailangan ka magalit or hindi. Sometimes there are quotes that can help us, no. It helped me sometimes to read some quotes. about this one. Emotion-focused coping strategies aim to handle and decrease the severity of the undesirable emotions that a stressful situation has caused. If we're so overwhelmed already by these emotions that can happen in us, no, we sometimes can detach ourselves, no, to decrease that that feeling of being so emotionally attached and depleted. So sometimes people will detach or move away from a situation or from other people. Okay, that is how they cope up. Problem focused coping, no, I just wanted to share uh, a behavioral therapy known as SFBT, no, or solution focused brief therapy. So this is what I usually practice when I was still a guidance facilitator. So basically, this helps solve the problem immediately. So focus siya sa mga problema agad, no? Hindi na siya pumupunta pa sa mga past experiences ng tao, no? So he targets the problem immediately. So this method deals with the root causes of stress in an attempt to improve the stressful situation. So it is a strength-based approach to psychotherapy that is based on the solution building rather than problem solving. Unlike other forms of psychotherapy that focus on the present problems and past causes, SFBT concentrates on how your current circumstances and future hopes. So, yun nga, so encouragement, okay, is the basic counseling skill here, okay, and for you to focus on the problem and deal with it immediately. Cognitive coping naman is based on the mental process of how the individual appraises the situation. So, cognitive, ibig sabihin, thinking. No? So, cognitive way of managing the intake of emotionally arousing information. So, when we are become mentally exhausted by too many stressors that we are thinking, because some of it might be rational or it might be irrational, no? It's good for us to practice some skills. Like, for example, thought stopping. No? You just stop because when you become overwhelmed, I mean, and when you overthink too much, sometimes our brain can really fool us. The problem is not really existing. Our mind just creates those problems inside our head. So it's good to be aware of that. So CBT, or cognitive behavioral therapy, aims to help you deal with overwhelming problems in the more positive way by breaking them down into smaller parts. So you try to figure out things if this is really happening or if this is just made up lang or gawa-gawa lang siya ng isip ko. You just try to process those things that are rational or that is really happening and those things that is not really happening or that is not really existing. Okay, for example, no, in a counseling skill, no, sabi ni counselee, I mean, in a counseling situation, sabi ni counselee, I'll never have a lasting relationship. So it can become, or you might be, as a counselor says, or you could suggest or rethink, no, none of my previous relationships have lasted very long, so reconsidering what I really need from a partner could help me find someone I'll be compatible with long term. So binabago niya the way the person thinks of his or her problem. He changes it or he modifies it in a more positive way. Okay, there's a lot of things of seeing on problems. I really can tell you to this, no? Ang daming mga paraan paano mo tingnan yung isang problema. Okay, I hope I've made you realize some things, no, in our life. So defense mechanism. So you might find this in the theory of Sigmund Freud, no? The theory of Sigmund Freud, which is psychoanalysis. So defense mechanisms works in the unconscious. Ibig sabihin, we are not aware that we are doing it. Okay, it's unconsciously we're performing this. So in psychoanalytic theory, defense mechanism is a process that enables the mind to reach a compromise if the problem cannot be fully resolved. So in order for us not to become or to feel basic anxiety, no, we perform this unconsciously. So according to Freud, the process is usually unconscious and the compromise generally involves concealing from oneself internal drives or feelings that threaten to lower self-esteem or to provoke anxiety. So I will discuss some basic defense mechanisms that we perform. No, you might notice yourself, try to become aware of how it works in you. No, people have different defense mechanisms. The very common one is repression. So this involves pushing the unacceptable feelings of impulses into the unconscious. So if there is a bad memory, like a breakup from your ex, or when you are embarrassed in class, no, you try to forget, not really forget, but you try to push it in your unconscious that it does not happen. No, so at some point when we are reminded by some of our classmates, no, we try to say na it doesn't happen, or you try to forget that it happened to you, no. So this helps you cope with basic anxiety. So Freud believes that people tend to repress unacceptable sexual urges, traumas, painful memories, guilt, and shame feelings. So you try to repress these events, no, these unfortunate events, in order for you to be okay in your present time. Denial, no? Denial is, this is refusing to recognize some anxiety provoking events or piece of information. So denial happens when you actually remember it, but you try to deny that it happened or it occurred. No, it's different from repression. Okay. Displacement, no? Displacement involves transferring feelings from its true source to another source that is safer and more socially acceptable. So when you are angry to your teacher, no, sometimes we cannot show that we're angry to someone like our boss or our parents, no. So in order for you to cope up with it, with your anger, you release that anger to a dog, to a pet, or to a chair, no? Like, you kick the chair kapag galit kayo, diba? So, you sometimes displace the feeling, that impulse, no, to a less threatening target. That is displacement. Projection. So this occurs when a person assigns or projects unacceptable behavior, impulses, or urges to others. Ito na yung mga kantsaw-kantsaw, no? When you tease someone, uy, crush mo siya, ganyan, di ba? So this is placing unacceptable impulses in yourself into someone else. So you actually project, okay, how you actually feel or think about yourself to other people. Like, for example, when you said na crush mo yung isang person, no? Crush ni Bobby si Micah. So, in that way, even though you have feelings for that person, no? You try to project how you actually feel on that person to someone else, no? That he or she is actually feeling it, kahit hindi naman. Okay, reaction formation deals with unacceptable feelings by converting it into opposite. So, reaction formation is acting the opposite way around, no? What you actually feel towards someone, no? Nagiging, ano, yung tawag nila doon, reaction formation, nagiging, the person, uh, the person becomes more of, what's the term that they use, no? Basta, they're trying to react the opposite way around. Like, when you are angry on that person, kapag galit ka sa taong yun, but you cannot release that anger on that person, what you will do is you become extra nice towards that person. Uy, ang galing mo naman. Diba? I really admire you. Parang ganun. So, nagiging opposite yung how you react on a particular way. So, this refers to taking the opposite belief because the true belief causes anxiety. Okay. Regression. This is returning to a previous stage of development. So, at some point of our life, no, we become so exhausted. No? So, this can occur when we suck our thumb, no, when we sleep in a fetal position, no, something that our behavior is supposed to be during the earlier developmental years of our life, no. So we return on that phase that is safe, no, na that is wala pong masyadong problema, no, basically during the childhood or the infancy stage. So unconsciously may mga ways tayo on how we can on how this manifests on us. I think yung basic talaga is when we sleep in a fetal position. Kasi 'di ba, when we are still a fetus, parang we are safe in our mother's womb, no one can hurt us, no, something like that. So we go back on that earlier phase of our life. Also, tantrums, no? Tantrums, 'di ba? Minsan some of adults has these tendencies na they become too much angry, na minsan very childish na, no? Those are examples. Rationalization naman is supplying a logical or rational reason as opposed to the real reason. So this one involves making excuses for one's failure and shortcoming. So you try to rationalize, you know, those unacceptable events or those unacceptable things about yourself. No, you're making excuse, like, for example, cheating. No, cheating is really wrong, but you try to really defend it by saying that um, it's okay to really cheat because a lot of people also cheat as well, no? A lot of students also cheat, no? So you're making excuse, no, out of that unacceptable behavior. Sublimation. So sublimation is a type of displacement that is involved in redirecting a threatening or forbidden desire, usually sexual, into a socially acceptable one. So when we are pissed off by a person or when we have quarrel with our girlfriend or boyfriend, sometimes we sublimate, okay, these feelings like working out, like exercising or like cooking, so we try to sublimate these impulses into something that is meaningful. So for me, this is the most productive way of coping up, or the most productive defense mechanism that I can think of. Okay, this refers to acting out on unacceptable impulses in a socially unacceptable way or manner. Ayun. Intellectualization naman, intellectualization involves avoiding unacceptable emotion by focuses on the intellectual aspects of ourselves. Compensation concerns in overachieving in one area to compensate for failures in another. So, this happens when you are bad at math, no? Kapag hindi ka magaling mag-math, but you try to excel on other things like writing or vlogging, no? You try to excel on other aspects of yourself, not only in the academics but also to other parts of yourself such as modeling, no, hosting, mga ganung mga bagay. Okay, so stress is unavoidable. It is part of life and living. Stress is actually good for the human person, no? Every one of us experience stress at some point of our life, no? But it is important for us to manage it well in order for us not to reach mental exhaustion, or else, our mental health is at risk if we try the stress to overwhelm and to overtake us. So let's practice self-control, coping up skills, no? And I believe that is all. Thank you so much for listening. So these are, by the way, the references that we use in the classes. Thank you so much again, and goodbye. See you soon.